Sociological explanations of juvenile delinquency, social strain and cultural transmission theories. Chapter 4. An individual is a social being. This implies that an individual is involved with other human beings on a regular basis. How this interaction involves a juvenile delinquent is an interesting subject. Deviant behavior is inherently social in nature. Individuals are parts of social groups, social institutions, and have relationships with other individuals. We must explore and understand the social context of delinquency. This chapter examines two types of sociological theories regarding juvenile delinquency: social strain and cultural transmission. Theory. Let's first figure out what a theory is. A theory is a general statement that accurately relates cause and effect variables so as to explain events or behavior. Sociologists have linked delinquency to a variety of social conditions. For example, home life, family structure, neighborhood, school location, and peer group associations have all been linked to delinquency. Throughout the next two modules, you will learn about the following theories: social strain theories, cultural transmission theories, social learning theories, social control theories, labeling theories, conflict theories, and maturation, rational choice, and deterrence theories. A number of explanations attribute juvenile delinquency to situations in which young people experience a disruption or confusion in their lives. The first social strain theory we will discuss is Durkheim's concept of anomie. Emile Durkheim developed the concept of anomie to characterize the condition of a group or society with a high degree of confusion and contradiction in its basic norms. Durkheim hypothesized, using suicide rates, that the usual rules which restrain us from committing a socially unacceptable act can be weakened or suspended for some members of society who are lacking normative regulation. Robert K. Merton identified and expanded Durkheim's concept of anomie into a general theory that would help explain why many different kinds of people commit deviant behavior. He perceived a state of dissatisfaction arising from a sense of discrepancy between the aspirations of an individual and the means the person has available to realize these ambitions. Possible outcomes include conformity, innovation, ritualism, retreatism, and rebellion. Here's Merton's typology of modes of adaptive behavior in chart form. Think of the plus signs as having the culturally approved goals of material success, and the minus sign as not having those goals. The same goes for approved means. A plus sign means that a person has the approved means of hard work, dedication, etc., but a minus sign means that the individual does not have those means. Conformity. Most members of society conform to the culturally approved goals of success and go by approved means to reach a successful level. Imagine someone, like you, who is attending school to get a degree so they can gain knowledge and get a good job and be successful. Innovation. Those who innovate are dissatisfied because they know they lack the societal approved means to reach culturally approved goals. Think about someone living in an economically disadvantaged area and has not been able to find a good job to provide for their family. That individual may innovate and use an unapproved way to gain the money needed, like sell drugs, shoplift, etc. Ritualism. Ritualists have a rigid adherence to culturally approved methods, but they do not share the same culturally approved goals. These are people who may work the same dead-end job year after year, knowing they will never get rich or become materially wealthy. Retreatism. This abandons cultural goals and approved means. These are people who completely withdraw from society. An example would be a drug abuser who only lives for the next high or not for material wealth or success. These individuals will survive by unapproved means, like theft or begging. Lastly, rebellion. Those who rebel reject and substitute culturally approved means and goals. They substitute their own norms. Counterculturalists like vegans, hippies, and violent gangs fit this adaptation. Another social strain theory is Cohen's delinquent boys. Albert Cohen elaborated upon Merton's explanation of deviant behavior with his theory that a large amount of delinquent behavior results from blocked goals and status frustration. Cohen reported lower-class boys who aspire to increase social status can respond in one of three ways: the college boy response, the corner boy response, or the delinquent boy response. The college boy response is much like the conforming response of Merton. He will conform to middle-class expectations. The corner boy was the most common in his study. These boys were socialized into a subculture of the working class. Lastly, the third option is the delinquent boy. He would be pulled into the delinquent subculture. Clower and Olin's delinquency and opportunity further added to the social strain approach to examining delinquent behavior with their concept of illegitimate opportunity. They contended that while lower-class juveniles have different opportunities for achieving success through legitimate means, they also have differential opportunities for achieving it through illegitimate means. They presented three types of juvenile gangs, characterized by three different kinds of activities: the crime-oriented gang, which has high levels of violence and crime; the conflict-oriented gang, which have high level of fighting; and the retreatist-oriented gang, which has a high level of drug or alcohol abuse. Agnew's general strain theory, where Agnew views strain as more than just a disjunction between goals and means. He sees crime and delinquency as adaptations to stress. Males and females in all social classes can experience delinquency, generating social strain. He discussed three sources of stress that lead to social strain: discrepancy between means and goals, or between expectations and outcomes; loss of something positive in one's life, like the loss of a parent; and the presence of something negative in one's life, like the presence of abuse. There have been a number of criticisms leveled against social strain theories. For example, Travis Hershey pointed out that most delinquent boys eventually become law-abiding adults, which is a potential source of embarrassment to strain theorists. Social strain theories also assume people from lower classes develop the same level of aspiration. There is the generalization that structural frustration causes delinquency, when there are other causes besides economic opportunity and frustration. Few of the theories could also apply to female delinquency. Next, we'll talk about cultural transmission theories. Cultural transmission theories focus on the contradictory and often competitive cultural content of different groups. The underlying assumption was that the heterogeneity of the population associated with 20th century industrialization and urbanization resulted in an inharmonious mixture of ethnic, religious, political, and social class subcultures, each with its own distinctive beliefs, traditions, values, norms, and behavior expectations. And this created culture conflict. Sellen's theory of culture conflict. Thorsten Sellen concluded that cultural conflict creates a great potential for misunderstanding and antagonism, especially among the subordinate lower-class groups regarding what is conforming and what is deviant behavior. Deviance is interpreted within cultural context. Culture conflict theory explains fluctuating crime rates. It posits that values, customs, and standards of conduct are not uniform throughout the population, and this may result in culture conflict. Because of this, definitions of crime or deviance are culturally relative. For example, a child from a working-class family who is used to talking loudly at home goes to school and is always told to use their inside voice. This child has conflicting standards for behavior because he or she is being judged by the middle-class measuring rod of the teacher. Burgess's concentric zone theory. Burgess used Chicago as a model in demonstrating the variation in naturally formed urban areas. He saw a distinctive pattern that characterized the industrial city. He pinpointed Zone 2, or the zone in transition, the area immediately surrounding the business district, as an urban environment especially conducive to a wide variety of individual maladjustments, waves of impoverished populations, and social problems. Shaw and McKay's high delinquency areas. Shaw and McKay charted the spatial distribution of crime and delinquency on maps of Chicago and other cities. They concluded that delinquency rates reflected the kinds of neighborhoods in which children were raised. They contended that deteriorated, poverty-ridden areas of cities tend to produce social disorganization, which in turn produces delinquency. They called the social problems of the community social disorganization. Sampson's cultural efficacy theory. Sampson and colleagues contend that areas of cities develop collective efficacy, a group's shared belief in its ability to successfully complete tasks and its extent of social cohesion and trust. Where social efficacy and social cohesion are now lacking, crime and delinquency flourish. Strain theory strongly suggests that social disorganization often characterizes individuals and groups living in high delinquency areas. This assumption has been seriously questioned. A number of more recent studies have concluded that lower-class neighborhoods are not without social organization. Rather, their social organization is different from that found in middle-class areas. Also, the use of official statistics of arrest may be biased. Lastly, urban areas may be collectors of deviance rather than deviance generators. Citations. All the texts in these slides are quoted from the following: